Super excited today to welcome you to a brand new episode of Shut Up and Thrive. Wow, we got the whole group there. I love that. Wow, this has been fantastic. We are super excited today. We're welcoming in Shannon McIntyre Hooper. She is a healthcare growth expert and president of Unlock Health to Shut Up and Thrive podcast. Welcome, Shannon.
Awesome to be here. We're so glad to have you here.
The crowd's just going wild today for you. This is out of control.
Love it.
We're super excited, and we're gonna waffle a little bit, me and Brandon, and then we're gonna bring Miss Shannon in for everyone to discover her brilliance. So Shannon, what are we celebrating today? And I'm gonna ask Shannon the same thing. What are you celebrating today?
Me?
What are you celebrating?
I am celebrating being here with you guys. I'm celebrating being present in the moment, and I'm celebrating doing this podcast. We haven't done one in like a month and a half. So I've been looking forward to getting in this room and talking to you guys. I love just the curiosity of learning about Shannon has really got me excited today.
Totally. And you are an awesome host. So thank you for being my co-host. I'm appreciating you.
Well, it is my pleasure and honor, Debra. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Shannon, what are you celebrating today?
Let's see. I will celebrate. I did my 8th annual Spartan race a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I like that.
That was awesome. I'm sure we'll talk today about growth and resilience and a bunch of things there, which that plugs into, but it was a ton of fun. Great weather. Had an awesome time here.
I love that. I have a huge celebration.
I was going to say, Debra, what are you celebrating?
Thank you for asking. My grandbaby was born 10 days ago.
Wow, we have so much celebrating happening here today.
I just want to say, if you have children, the unexpected, deep feeling of being overjoyed when you first hold your son's son. I couldn't smile big enough. Tears came down my face. It was this feeling, and I thought, I feel overjoyed. And I thought, that's not very a word that you hear people say when you say, how are you doing? They're like, yeah, okay.
Fantastic or whatever.
Maybe.
Overjoyed.
Overjoyed. I want to live in a space of being overjoyed. And I want to be that to support other people doing that. Companies, people, why should not we be overjoyed? We get to choose that. And to be overjoyed, people don't even say I have joy. So let's just start with that. But to be overjoyed. So I just want to say, if you are a grandparent, you probably know that feeling, the miracle of your child having a child, the miracle that your child is a miracle, and that everyone is a miracle. I want to celebrate that everyone is a miracle. Like Shannon, there's no one like you. Brandon, there's no one like you. And there's no one like me in the world. And we have a calling and a purpose to fulfill that only we can do because of who we are specifically created. And we will never live in a different era. We live here now for a reason. The things we're experiencing are for a reason. It's not an accident. And I believe that we all have purpose, whether it's our work, whether it's our family, whether it's our personal, and how can we be the choosers of the creator of our life and work instead of being a victim? That's what I'd say about that.
Amen. It's
full stuff.
It's interesting you say that because I was interviewed on a podcast called the Nashville Dads Podcast, and they were like, "Hey, come be on the podcast." And they did like this rapid fire question at the end, and they said, "What's a milestone moment with your kids that you're looking forward to in life?" And I had to like pause to think about it. I said, "I think the day that one of them has a child, when I get to become a grandfather," I said, "I think that's the moment because they're going to instantly know in that moment how much I love them." There's no way for a kid to know how much a parent loves them until they have their own kid. Then they go, oh my, you love me that much? And you go, your whole life, dude. And it's like that moment where you just, did you feel any of that? Like, was there any of that kind of?
Just you telling me this, saying this, I have chills all over my body because it's like an outer body thing almost. It's so giant and so big. And even my relationship already with my daughter-in-law and son has shifted.
Wow.
There is just more room for love. And, the opposite of love is fear. And we all, 98% of the time, our work is 98% of the time we are in fear. That's unconsciousness. And we create our relationship to self and relationship to each other, typically out of defense, whether it's in our personal relationship or in the same patterns come up in our leadership and in our companies. And so you don't realize that there's something being torn down for more joy and love to come forward. So that was the unexpected, is experiencing this with my daughter-in-law and my son, and just they are beaming. And how can we create more love in our life, in our world, and at work? Gosh darn it, I'm going to say love at work. Trust and love versus fear and control. This is what I believe leaders must master in order to have a thriving, engaging, sustainable company revenue, engagement with clients internally and our externally, and relationships. Everything's built on relationships, everything. So how do we build our relationships? It's got to start with ourselves.
Shannon, do you have children?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. But I have a bunch of friends who've got their kids, and I go through many of these journeys with them, which is just a phenomenal thing to watch and be a part of through that. Yeah.
I love that. Congratulations, Debra. That is so exciting for you. And just, wow.
Yeah. So thank you. So it's a big celebration, everyone. And I'm wishing everyone who's listening right now, lots of love, lots of joy, and that you are worthy because you are you. Don't listen to the lies, the critic in you, the blamer in you, the shamer in you. I heard this story. I heard someone say, when we take on shame, or we just feel it, declaring shame off me. I'm like, what a cool thing. Shame off me. Because we are little, shame on you. No, shame off me.
Yeah.
Guys, that's the critic. That's a judger. So just declare that, whether you believe it or not, just say it anyway, because we will not grow until we start rewiring our thinking about ourselves. And we got to rewire something we aren't believing yet and be uncomfortable. Like, really? We have to be uncomfortable in order to grow into that new phase.
And that's the point of this show, to tell that inner critic to shut up so that you can thrive. And I want to bring in Shannon here because we have this amazing guest, and Shannon brings incredible insight into scaling organizations while staying rooted in purpose and conscious leadership. So this is par for the course here, and we're so excited to get started.
Yeah, I'm super excited. When Shannon and I spoke, I don't know, it seems like months and months ago, I have chills again, just the opportunity I get to talk to you in person. There are very few presidents, CEOs, business owners that I've ever met that have your perspective, your heart, your care, your learning, and you are, to me, to be celebrated, and you are a model, and I would love for more leaders to be as you are. Yeah.
Well, that is incredibly kind. I mean, look, I think that I've been very fortunate to learn a lot from some incredible leaders along the way and get exposed into new ways of thinking and new ways of challenging oneself to, kind of let go of those shackles that are really limiting you and your ability to kind of find your own purpose, follow your identity, kind of find those sparks of growth. So I think it'll be a really fun conversation.
I love that. So tell us that journey. Like, what have been your big learnings to this point of where you are? Could you share some major impactful learnings?
Yeah. So I've had a really unusual and interesting career journey. I actually studied in college comparative religion and philosophy. So that was an area that I just found an incredible amount of fascination in, understanding how people think, societal movements, what motivates people, different frameworks for thinking and understanding the world. And so I studied that for 4 years. And actually, I thought I was going to be going to get my PhD and moving into academia and really continuing with that journey. But I took a sojourn in New York for a while, got into the business world, and honestly fell in love with business and the impact that you can have through organizations, through leadership, through mentorship, and then ultimately took that path, eventually got my MBA. So I got my, second academic fix, just in a different way from what I expected. But I think that some of that early curiosity into how people think and how people try to live their lives really was part of what introduced me into stoicism, which I know we talked about a little bit, but that is a really, really big part of my life in being able to, first off, understand what are the things I can and can't control, and really letting go of those things I can't control, whether that's someone else's perspective of me or kind of something happening at a more macro level that I truly can't impact. But more importantly, identifying honestly through a lot of self-reflection, what are the things that I can control, and really owning and leaning into those. And just as importantly, embracing the obstacles along the way, right? That's a big principle of stoicism, that the obstacle is the way.
Yes.
And so I've done a lot of work over the past, 20 plus years in my career, really finding that pathway to embracing obstacles, embracing challenges, embracing the pain of it, and seeing that for what it is, which is a crucial component of personal growth and evolution.
I love that. And I always say that a business is only going to go as far as the leader goes.
Yes.
And that's the blockage. And I am celebrating you for taking the time to invest in yourself. What I hear many times from leaders is, I don't have time. I'm like, So if we don't invest in ourselves to take the time to learn and grow, what happens? What do you notice?
Oh, I mean, you stall out, and then if you can't grow yourself, you can't grow others around you. You can't grow the organization. And ultimately, you just can't live up to what your potential is. Your potential is huge, but you have to invest in yourself for that growth to get there.
Absolutely.
Was there a moment for you, everything you just described was so impactful around just personal accountability and curiosity, and your own self-reflection and learning what you can control. Was there a pivotal moment for you where, how did you grow up? I mean, where did you learn to be able to do that? So many people blame everybody else for everything that happens, and you just described so many amazing things. Where does that come from?
Well, let's see. So, I mean, there's probably aspects of how I even grew up in my childhood that I
100%.
think really helped kind of drive that. So early on, when I was 8 years old, I was very athletic. I did child triathlons, which is a whole other.
There's such a thing as child triathlons.
The Iron Kids triathlon.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole thing. I traveled around the country. I was 8 years old, getting up, doing swim practice at 5 a.m. So that, I think that built a lot of, ability to focus and do hard things. But that's not even the answer to your question. A couple of years after that, I got diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And essentially it completely shut down one of my knees. So I could not do any of the triathlons anymore. I actually had to, spend time on crutches during formative years in junior high, which I don't recommend that. It turns out.
Because kids are very nice.
Oh, they're so kind.
They're so kind and understanding, empathetic. Oh, yeah.
It's just a really generous time of one's life.
During your awkward years, also having crutches and a knee that doesn't really work.
Exactly. Just
popularity. That's where
That's right. Yes. But the funny part is that as much as you can joke about that, like, oh yeah, that really set me up for success. I actually think it did.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I really do, because I think that I learned early on the skills of not focusing a lot on what other people were thinking about me, of reframing, what it means to be successful, because I was so tied into a lot of kind of the athletics early in my life. And honestly, there have been these continued related challenges where, so, luckily I ended up going into remission from that for a while, but it will keep popping back up every once in a while. So I'll go in remission for a number of years, got really back into running for a period of time, then had a flare up, couldn't run. Okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to take on weightlifting. And so I think that when you start viewing those challenges as a forcing function to do something different, to learn something new, to think about how you kind of reframe your worldview, it really does open up just an incredible avenue for personal growth and, frankly, happiness.
Yeah, I love that, because many times people get stuck. Why me? This shouldn't be happening. You shifted it to, how is this for me, and how am I going to choose to be with what's happening now? And I know that for myself and for the people I get to work with, that when we argue with what is, we suffer because we can't control outcomes.
Yes.
And you talked about earlier what is in my control. What is in my control is how I go, what's my perspective on this? And if it's not bringing me joy and peace, pick a new perspective on whatever that is. And that sounds like exactly what you did. When we're in arguing around it, we can't see other opportunities. There is no other perspective. So you chose to get really curious, like you said, and look at, yeah. So from a very young age, you were taught by that experience to lead yourself in a different way. What can I control?
I also think sports is so important as a young kid. And I'm not talking about the parents who are yelling at their kids to go faster and but as a child, I make both of my kids play a sport every year. Not because, and I'm not yelling at them that they don't do the things, but I want to teach them how to be on a team, how to recognize success, and even in the failure, to recognize what part you played in the result you didn't want. And there's so many things that you learn through that, the tenacity of pushing through pain, pushing through these different things. At a young age, you're doing triathlons, such because you're looking at numbers and what can I do to personally improve, and you're recognizing what you can control. And then this happens. I think it gave you a really good framework to move through that.
I want to say something to that. It's for everyone listening, there is a caveat there.
Yes.
What am I going to say the caveat is?
I don't know. I'm hanging on. I'm hanging on over here.
Okay.
Don't
Shannon,
make your kids do anything. Make
say?
them want to do it. I don't know.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Lay it on us.
You had said this earlier. Your significance is not on what you accomplish, whether you get first place or last place. That is what Shannon is saying. That is not her significance, or what other people think of her or not when she's hobbling around with a crutch. And the United States, I don't know if you know the Enneagram, but that's part of my work as well. We are a 3 culture, and we have been trained in school, and unbeknownst to us, most likely from our parents, because they had similar training for decades, we have been taught that we must achieve, we must win. And if we don't win, there are consequences, and we take it personally, and we get attached to this outcome of, I'm good, I'm not good, I'm bad, I'm not bad, I'm enough, I'm not enough. And I say this because, I don't know, Shannon, if I'd share this with you, you all have heard out in podcast world, the 3 questions that I ask, a business owner or a president, CEO. 1, do you believe you're enough? 2, do you believe you have enough just right here, right now? And 3, do you know how to love yourself? And sadly, not one person, except for Shannon now, has ever said to me yes to any of those questions. And I'm talking, friendly reminder, guys, if you've heard this before, multi-billionaire people are still saying, I don't have enough money. I don't know how to love myself. And this is really unfortunate, because they are not ever going to say, I'm overjoyed by waking up in the morning and I have breath in my lungs and I get to choose a new way. I get to choose a new life today. I get to choose how I get to be with my dogs and my husband or my kids, and sadly, they're leading a team or a company out of toxicity. That's our option. We're either curious and trust and in love, or we're in blame, shame, control, and toxicity. So we cannot love our team. We cannot be empathic. We cannot create psychological safety in an organization unless we know how to be safe to ourselves instead of blaming or shaming ourselves. So we're blaming and shaming ourselves. We're going to do that to our spouses, to our kids, to our teams. And guys, no blame or shame that you're blaming yourself. This is what the unconscious mind does 98% of the time. We just have to be aware of it and that we're more powerful than we believe, that we get to choose over and over again and love ourselves in our learning. It's to fail quickly, to learn quickly. And you had also said that, like, I'm failing, or what can I learn from this? What can I learn? This isn't what I would have chosen, but it's here to teach me. Right. And so I love that about you.
Yeah, what you're saying really resonates with me. A couple of things that come up, even kind of bringing it back to the idea of stoicism. There's this concept called amor fati, which means love your fate and kind of love where you are right now and have this ability to reflect on the moment and how fortunate we are to be alive, to be, driving down the street, to be spending time with loved ones, to have the opportunity that we have. And so I think that kind of framework is really important. The other thing that you mentioned that just resonates with me, you talked about the Enneagram and the 3 achiever culture. So I admit I'm a recovering 3 in Enneagram.
So you're a 3?
Oh yeah. Hardcore 3 right here. But something that I think is really important is when you think about achieving, it's achieving what? And so some of how I think I have been able to maybe try and move away from what can be more of the toxic attributes of a 3 is to think about maybe achievement is about kind of finding myself and staying true to my identity and my values and not focusing on reputation. Maybe achieving is about not some outcome, but being consistent in the process and the journey. And I think kind of that aspect of not over rotating to some specific thing that you don't have that's out there or that you frankly can't always control, but you can control how you show up every day. You can control how you are, whether you're staying consistent in a practice. And so focus on that. And that's the achievement.
I so agree with you because 3s, if you are a leader or business owner, typically, I'm going to make a blanket statement here. Typically leaders are 3s or 8s, and 3s are the workaholics. That's what we're labeled as. And we override relationship to ourselves because we push ourselves when we're unconscious. And we override the relationships that matter to us because we want to get somewhere and we're future oriented. We're not present and we're looking down the road and we're looking at, we have to get this goal. And if we don't get this goal, we don't feel worthy. And if we get the goal, it's not celebrated because it's on to the next and on to the next and on to the next. And it creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of push, and a lack of fulfillment because it's attached to an outcome outside of yourself. So again, I'm appreciating you because you're like, wait a minute, I'm to be appreciated. I'm worthy regardless of the outcome. And I have systems inside of myself to make me believe that and live that. So kudos to you.
And those are the opportunities you have through sports. I mean, if you have your goal with kids, it puts them in an opportunity to learn a lot of those lessons if you can go back and carefully curate those. And it teaches them a lot of those tools so that in life they can go, oh, I've done this when I was 8. When I was running, I had to do this or this, or I didn't do this. I love it. It's all good stuff.
And I'd love to know how I'm just thinking about my learnings. I want to hear your learnings, even with my teams. Personally, that my team and then teams that I work with, my biggest learning to get out of my 3 of having to get somewhere, 3s do not like anyone or anything get in their way. And they're fast and they do not want to go slow. And we know we must go slow in order to learn. But 3s are like, no, I'm going fast. And don't you dare stop me. And I used to talk, I probably still talk quickly. I lived most of my life in Chicago. But if we're going quickly, we're skipping over wisdom already inside of ourselves, wisdom from our team. And I say that because, and we can't even hear others because we're going so fast and we can't hear ourselves. We can't hear our loving being outside of us. And I remember working on LaSalle Street in Chicago. And I'd be racing, walking as fast as I could down Adams to get on the train. And there's like, I felt like I was in New York, like wall to wall people trying to get to the train. And I'm like going in the street to go around them. Okay. And I'm talking to my assistant and I'm trying to hurry her up to tell me exactly what it is I need because I got to make a few more calls before I get on that train before it cuts me off because we're going in the tunnel. And I'm like, come on, just tell me. And I thought, what does it feel like to be on the other side of me, trying to rush her, trying to get somewhere and not hearing her? And when I'm speaking quickly like that, I'm just assuming she understands what I'm saying, but she probably doesn't because people don't go as fast as threes typically, and they don't catch as much as we're saying. And then we get upset because they're not doing what we've asked or we thought we asked them to do. So I'm curious, like, how have you grown with your team and how do you join them in this conscious journey?
Yeah, so I think this goes back to being really clear on one's values and purpose and finding a way to live in accordance with those. So when I think about what my broader purpose is, I think it's about helping find people who don't believe in themselves, help lift them up, and then get out of their way. That is really kind of how I think about my purpose. And then when I think about kind of my values and what I want to live on a day-to-day basis, my two foundational values are challenge and optimism. And then there's a number of other adjacent ones like curiosity and perseverance. And so when I think about what it means to live those, you can't be curious if you're in a rush. Like you have to sit down, you have to have this kind of what I call like cognitive empathy, right? Which is really wanting to understand where people are coming from. Because ultimately, let's go back to the achiever piece a little bit. There is no way an organization is going to be able to achieve what it can if you aren't really understanding where individuals are, what they need, what motivates them,
That's right.
How to help them get out of their own ways, how to move roadblocks out of their way.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that when you start viewing it through that lens, first off, you're living in accordance with purpose and values. Second off, ironically, slowing down sometimes is what you have to do to speed up.
I so agree. And so I'm celebrating you again because I have this belief and I share it. I think it's written in my website. The most important role a CEO or president has is to see the genius in their people. What lights them up? What's their purpose? And are they spending 70 to 80% of their day doing that? And most people don't know their genius because they just haven't thought about it. They haven't been taught to be still, to hear themselves, and it's okay to honor what their heart wants. And so I really believe that is the number one thing that a CEO or president can do. So I'm super excited to hear that.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's so funny how many times people are thinking more about, just the systems or the goals or whatever it is. And ultimately, if you get the right people in the right seats and then just give them the ability to thrive, like everything else falls into place.
Totally. Then you're not overworking.
Yeah.
You're not taking on their role. You're not frustrated because they're feeling the space to be spacious with themselves and what they're up to. And then they can go and do it. And it builds trust.
Yes.
It builds trust. They say that's showing them, I trust you.
Yep.
I trust you. You might not get the same outcome or goal together, but if you are a learner as a leader, you can get curious around, well, could there be other ways? Is it just my way, or is there a win solution for all? Is there a bigger opportunity here that I can't see? Because if we are going to be vulnerable and authentic, we have to say, I'm human just like everyone else. And gosh darn it, we all want the same goal. We all want to get somewhere. And does it have to be just my way that we get there? But could my teammate, could my team have greater ideas than me? Could I be willing to let that go?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think of my kind of highest and best use is actually to hire people who can take my job.
Exactly.
And if you have that as the lens for hiring, everyone wins, right? You're bringing in people who are smarter than you and who then push you. And then if I have people who are able to grow into what I'm doing, that gives me the ability to spend more time on other things and for me to grow into other areas too. And I think that's so strange to me how many leaders hire in a weird way out of fear, hire someone to make sure that they don't feel threatened, where it's like, oh my gosh, the whole point is to hire someone who can do what you're doing better than you.
I agree. And again, if most people, I mean, all people, unless we're learning to get out of it, are in a protection state. And so we must learn as leaders, where do I feel uncomfortable? Because the growth is in the discomfort, and leaning into, I'm feeling really anxious about this, or I'm feeling like this isn't going to work. Well, get curious. I love to say, how could the opposite be true? How could the opposite be true of my thought that's obviously not working because I keep repeating the same thing over and over again? And that's another thing, is looking at the outcomes. Are they repetitive and you have the same outcomes? If we do the same thing, think the same, feel the same, behave the same, we're going to get the same outcome. And that is the biggest role of a leader, is to take responsibility for, I get to choose how I think, how I feel, how I behave. And that's the only thing I can control that's going to bring my decision making, which brings my outcome. And that's the other thing I see, is people doing the same thing. I always say it over and over again on this podcast. It's what Einstein says, it's insanity to be doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So guys, if you are not thinking differently, and getting uncomfortable about your thoughts, and getting uncomfortable about new feelings, because you're just like me, you're probably addicted to those thoughts, addicted to those feelings, because they've served you to a certain point, but they're not really serving you anymore. And how are you going to take on a new behavior, not just the behavior, but the things that lead to the behavior? Feeling your emotions all the way through, number one. Instead of being reactive, stopping to pause, because there's wisdom in your emotions, and learn about yourself, guys, so that you can create something new. Limitless opportunities. So I'm just applauding everyone out there that we can do this together. We need each other. Shannon, we need you. We need you sharing this on the podcast, and leading your team differently. So tell us where you recently got an outcome you didn't want with your team, and how did you handle that? How'd your team handle it?
So I think that in terms of a recent outcome where we didn't get what we wanted, well, I think one example would be maybe a big loss from a client perspective, or a big new business loss that everyone put all of their heart into, and ultimately we didn't win the piece of business, which I think can lead to a massive amount of kind of demotivation, and why, and what did we do wrong, and a lot of spiraling. And in the worst case of it, you start seeing some blaming. Oh, it was because that team didn't really show up in the way that they needed to. And I think that ultimately what I try to encourage folks to think about in those cases is, first off, did we show up in the best way that we could have? And if the answer is yes, then I do not lose sleep over that new business loss or whatever it is, because it goes back to this whole aspect of, you can't control the outcome. You can control the process.
That's right.
And I would say on the flip of it, if there is when there is a piece of new business that we win, but I know that we didn't put our best foot forward and kind of do the best we could have done, I'm losing way more sleep about that one than the one that we lost. We did our best.
Say more.
Well, I think that it does go back to this aspect of, what are the things you can control? And, one of my other core values is this idea of excellence. So if you can put forward your best foot every single day and live knowing that you have focused on the things that you can control and delivering the best possible quality product or output or service, then that is the thing to be celebrated. And sometimes the cards don't fall the way that you want them to. I mean, that's just life. You don't win everything, but if you're doing everything you can to get the output that you want, that's extraordinary. And I think that's incredibly rare. Yeah. That's what we should focus on.
Yes. And could I add one thing to that? Where we do our dedication from, of our doing. We are wired with so much wisdom. And am I doing my work moment by moment that lights me up? Do I have a whole yes to this when Shannon says to me, hey, would you do XYZ? Instead of saying yes, and you know you've got a pile already sitting at the desk, and you really are going to have to like squeeze something in, and it feels overwhelming. And those conversations to be had around saying, make up a story here, Shannon, I'd love to do that, but I'm really feeling I don't have the bandwidth right now. And what can we discuss? What would be the best path forward? Like, does this need to come off the plate? What's the priority here? How do we make impeccability with each other instead of just, you're my boss, so I have to say yes? Can we have a discussion where it's a win-win for everyone? And I believe that that invites people to be authentic in their work space, and knowing that they're not just doing it to like please someone or please their boss or to make sure they get a bonus or keep their job or have whatever it is. It is a conversation around thriving, and are we taking on work that we really can do? Are we doing it for money? And I see a lot of companies taking on so much work because they think it's bringing in revenue, and their people are drowning. And when people are drowning, they're going to get burnout. They're not going to be able to perform at their best. They're not able to think clearly, and they're going to probably it because they don't have the bandwidth. And so, dear ones out there in the world who are leaders, business owners, I want you to consider, can I just have a conversation with my people and ask them, do you have a whole yes to taking this on? And it's okay if you say no. What does a whole yes look like to you? Because we want impeccable agreements with our people, not just shoving something on their plate to do. And I think that helps us learn. And then the other thing you had said is, if we don't give, I'm celebrating what we don't get, as long as we're doing our best, and I take that as thriving internally. Trusting like you did when you were racing and when you were young and your knee didn't work and your leg didn't work and you've got a crutch. You chose to learn from it, and you chose to trust that there was something better for you. And so when we have businesses that don't come forward, and then we put a lot of effort, I have a huge proposal out right now for a large company in New York right now. And one of my partners, she said, well, did you notice, the reaction as to the pricing on the other side of, there are two CEOs. I said, no, because it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that I know I'm giving them my best, my value that I'm going to give them. And I know my work will transform what they're up to, should they choose to do it. And if they don't choose to do it, that is A-okay, because I only want to be with people who are going to be a value add, who are going to step up and do their work. And that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter about the outcome. I trust that there'll be someone or a company that I do want to work with, because yes, this is what we need and want, and we are investing in ourselves and our people. So we already know that there's something greater for us. Always.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Brandon, thoughts?
I've just been enjoyed listening. I mean, I think that there's a lot of really impactful things that you're saying. I mean, I don't have thoughts on this. I'm just keep going. I'm just enjoying this. I'm sorry. I'm just like a listener over here, just going, wow. I'm so impressed with the ability to look inside of yourself and recognize these things. And I think that so many people will look at this and not make the impeccable agreements. They use the word accountability. I tell them what to do, then I hold them accountable, versus really having those strong conversations and collaborating through something, or them fully understanding what the whole body yes, I think is so important, because so many times we don't get that whole body yes. We get a 50%, if this is what you really want me to do, I don't believe it. And then they don't do the full job. And then it just puts you back so far, because now I've given you the ability to do this, and we're 2 weeks later, it's not done. Then I got to go back to ground zero, and you go, oh, you didn't have a whole body yes in this. We didn't have that. And I always do 2 thumbs up. I go, are we 100% in this? 2 thumbs up, like looking at me in the eyes. Yes, I'm in. I just want that verbal or the nonverbal yes confirmation, because that also is we have an impeccable agreement. This is what it's going to be. And that is, it allows you the ability to really get stuff done. And I don't think we recognize how many people don't have a whole body yes. We may have it, but when they don't, you don't win.
And then we notice if people aren't fully telling us everything, If they don't feel comfortable saying no,
And
we've
there's a lack of
got
trust.
a culture problem.
Yeah.
We've got a fear-based culture. And we, as leaders, are responsible. The key leader is responsible for that, because what that leader tolerates or amplifies, is that a word? Is where that company is going to go. That's where that culture is going to go.
Yep.
And it is the key person there. It's up to them how that culture goes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I love this idea of the whole body yes. And I think that a lot of the commitments made are done so quickly without fully thinking, because our head is always spinning, right? Like you're always in. There's this amazing philosopher, Joshua Bach, I think his name is, and he talks about how all pain is from a disconnect with the present, right? Because you're either thinking about the past or something that happened that you didn't think was the right thing to happen, or you're worrying about the future. So if you can just kind of reconnect into the present, that allows you to actually listen more effectively. It allows you to connect with yourself more effectively. There's this great tip that one of my friends from college actually told me, where whenever she feels like she's getting kind of like spun up in her mind, she thinks, feel the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, it's the experience of being connected to the ground,
Yes.
to earth, and having that moment of, I am here right now, and I can deal with what is coming at me in this moment, and I can think about it, and I can decide, am I in, am I out, am I fully committed, not? And I think that that aspect of being present is really powerful. And I may have shared this with you when we last had our conversation, Debra, but there's this other stoic framework of memento mori, which sounds morbid because it's translated as remember you will die.
That's right.
But I find it an incredibly optimistic, uplifting concept. And I actually have this board in my office that says memento mori at the top. And then there are these little boxes, each representing a week. And there's 100 of them on there. I guess 100 times, 52. And basically every Monday morning I come in and I scratch one of them off. And I think I am 1 week closer to my death.
That's right.
And I've got to live in this moment. Like, how incredible is it to be alive right now? This could be over in a year, in a day, in 40 years, right? Like, you just don't know. And when you have that mental model, I think it leads to so much more of a sense of kind of presence and appreciation and an ability to connect and to listen. And that is what then allows us to get the best out of others, out of ourselves, to give our whole body yes.
That's right.
And be committed.
I love this because it then brings purpose. It's like, I want to be impactful today. You're ringing this. We probably did have this conversation because I am celebrating a little over 13 years of almost dying and thinking I'm going to win on the podium today. I was racing my bike, and little did I know, 3 laps into it, I'm going to be fighting for my life. We don't know. And I always say, if I can impact one person's life today, just one more person's life, because I don't know what's going to happen. That's my goal. Can I just impact one person's life today? And I want you all in the world to think, what is it that you're called to in the moments you have? Because in this very, very, very now moment, we do have enough. If you have breath, you have enough. And your breath is a gift, because one day that will be taken away. You can't create breath. Yes, you can get an oxygen mask, like when I was put in a coma, but all the things, but your breath is because you are worthy. And if you don't have your breath, your brain doesn't work, your heart doesn't pump, you don't have blood coursing through your brain, and you just looking at, just like Shannon said, looking at what is here, right now, like your friend grounding her feet right here, right now. What is here right now? And from the space of right here, right now, that I have enough, can I make my decisions from enoughness? Because when we start to make decisions from I'm not enough, I don't have enough, we're going to make a fearful decision, which is out of scarcity. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough clients. I don't have enough team, talent, whatever the not enough is. we can't see the bigger picture when we're in that state, and then we create the same old result. So I love the practice of being grounded, looking at the board that you put every day to check. I'm the visual. I'm one day closer to not being here. I'm one day closer to not being here anymore. Who do I want to impact? So before we close in our time today, what would you most want us to know about you?
I think maybe it's not what I would most want folks to know about me, but what I most want folks to kind of know about themselves is maybe how I would reframe that. And one thing that I would really encourage folks to think about is this aspect of what's called integrative thinking. So I think that there is a tendency in culture, in business, in just day-to-day interpersonal exchanges of viewing things as a binary of I can do this or I can do that. Or, here's two options. You can either grow as an organization or have a really great, healthy culture. We're facing these all the time. I would encourage everyone listening to this, be attuned to this, and you will be shocked at how many times through the course of today you will start hearing these binaries of it's got to be one or the other. And I call bullshit on that.
Absolutely. That's the unconscious mind keeping you safe.
That's right.
And safe does not grow you.
Oh, and also, it's just that's not how it has to be, right? So this principle of integrative thinking is something that I work really hard at all the time, and I've almost trained my mind so that whenever I hear the word or, I'm like, ooh, opportunity. Figure out how to take the best of these seemingly opposing things, wind them together into essentially a third option. And so maybe that's just something I would say is a kind of great call to action for the listeners, because I think it ties together a lot of what we've talked about, ties together curiosity, being present in a moment and not just letting, some binary options sweep you away, lets you kind of find growth because it forces you to think differently and choose a different pathway. And it also just, I think, breaks people out of kind of very, in the box thinking. So maybe that's how I would answer if that's something I've been working really hard on. But I think that when I've started spending time talking to teams about that and seeing how that can change the way they view the world, it is so beautiful.
I love it. It's the and. Yes. And again, I'll remind you, thank you so much for that. It's so true. And I'm just going to repeat this. When we get stuck in our thinking, which is really what Shannon is saying, how can the opposite be true? How can the opposite be true? How can the opposite be true? Could there be many ways? And if so, 3 ways, write it down, because the mind doesn't want you to see it. The mind is committed to you saying stuck, by the way, just so you know. The unconscious mind wants you to stay right here. So asking, how could this be? How could the opposite be true? And the 3 ways that really would be true. If you are really spinning, slowing yourself down to see other options.
I love all this. I want to make a comment on the last kind of right before this. We're talking about living in the present and the toes being grounded. I heard a guru named Dandapani speak one time, and he said, past, present, and future. The past is important because we can learn from what has happened and we can grow from that. The present is right now, but so many people are in the present and we look to the future, and there's a story we tell ourselves in our heads as to what could happen, what might happen. And then we go from where we are right now and we project something that hasn't happened, probably won't happen, into the future. And then we bring that thing that hasn't happened, probably won't happen, into the present, and we let it affect our daily lives. Right. And it's like, and then we get stuck. Then we start spinning in that moment. It's like going back to what can you control? I mean, that's where you got to live. You got to live right there in the present. You can identify what indicators might be for the future, but what can you do right now? What can I control? I think so many people get stuck in the what if this happens, and then they let it affect their daily decisions. And it's like, no, you got to live for today. What can I control today? What can I do today that may positively affect you? It's good to look at the future. We want to know what potentially might have, but you can't live there. You can't live in the future and let your future, what doesn't happen, affect your today. And I just thought that was really important. I love the idea to bring it back to your initial statement of kind of the serenity prayer, you know. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change things I can, and the wisdom, I think, is what I initially heard you say. And I was blown away because I don't hear people talk about that so much. They're so ingrained in the minutia of everything, and it's like, what can I actually control? I think that's one of the most powerful things as a leader you can do, is not try and get in the weeds. It's what can I actually control today in the present right now. And I just really have enjoyed everything that you've said. I'm inspired. I love talking to people that are just so incredibly brilliant, and I just love, with no expectation, going, wow, man, I didn't know what we were going to talk about today. I had no idea. And you get in this, you're like, man, there's some really powerful stuff, and you've inspired me that there are really, because in this world I kind of get, people drive me crazy today. Really, thank you for being here. This has been absolutely fantastic.
Yes, such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. I learned so much too. So this is amazing.
Ditto. This to me is leadership. This is to me the epitome of conscious leadership, of how you live a life that is spiraling up into more joy, peace, bringing your people with you, touching the world. And it's the only way. That's the only way, dear ones. So please reach out to Shannon. How do people reach you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to do things. But yeah, I would love to connect with anyone.
I love it. Well, Shannon, we're so honored to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. And we will be back soon with another episode of Shut Up and Thrive.
That was awesome.
So much fun. Thank you so much